I was doing research. I wrote a thesis for my master's. I was doing some research, and there was a company in Indianapolis that I was working with to do that, and they offered me a job, and I took that job, and I worked there for 4 years. And then I went to a TRB, which is in Washington, D.C. every
Right.
January, and I made a presentation on some work we'd been doing, and afterwards a guy came up to me and said, "Hey, you want to come to work for me?" Actually, he said, "Hey, you want to get some lunch?" We went to lunch. He said, "Hey, why don't you come to work for me? I'll let you get your PhD, and you can work full time."
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I ended up at Auburn University
Wow.
in Alabama, and I worked there a little less than 4 years, got my PhD there, worked for them. Then I came back. I worked for the state DOT for about a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I worked for the Asphalt Institute. You ever heard of them?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I was their district engineer here in the Midwest for probably 2 or 3 years when then there became an opening on faculty at Purdue. And I started here in 2000.
Wow.
So if you look at
It's an
my,
eclectic pathway.
oh, it's just, and what you find out when you start to talk to people,
Gentlemen, feel free to start at any time.
okay. When you talk to people, that's most people's experience. Most people don't say, "Hey, I want to do this in life and start at point A and get to point B."
Yeah.
Most people say at point A, "I'm not sure what I want to do. I think I might know," and they do start to do something, and I don't think, looking back at 17 when I graduated from high school, I didn't have a clue. I didn't know. My parents I was first generation going to college, right? I didn't have anybody to really guide me.
Sure.
You know, I'm not faulting my parents. I'm just saying that I didn't have that. It's like you said, right? Nobody prepared you for what was going to happen when you showed up at the university.
Right. Nobody told you about the portfolio.
Yes. So I think we're trying to reach out to kids that age. They're coming up they're going to graduate from high school, and it's an exciting time. And to a lot of them, it's just scary because they don't know what's going on. And it's true too, even of older people, right?
Indeed.
People get somewhere and they think, well, I've gotten 10 years down this road, and I don't think I kind of like this road, so maybe I'll take a road less traveled.
Right.
Maybe I'll find something different.
Right.
So you're here so we can talk about these kind of things.
Okay, thank you.
Because it's good to have you. Thanks for coming up. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Especially with the weather we've been having.
I'm good. Like I said, I didn't have to drive downtown today, so I'm good.
So Rick, let's start. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you were born and raised. I like to know where people come from.
Yeah, my name is Eric Fisher. I was born and raised in Bloomington, Indiana, the town south of here. Attended Bloomington North High School and took a lot of classes there at Hoosier Hills Vocational Center, architectural drafting, and any construction class I could get myself into. So realized that the school there in the South didn't have anything to offer me, so I left the liberal arts school. And
I was going to say, were you considered a traitor? You left Bloomington to go to Muncie?
My family are ardent IU fans, so I had when I left to Ball State, I took some heat when I got home for the holidays.
Did you?
Yeah.
So you went to Ball State. So I assume that you're kind of a Ball State fan, but I'm guessing that you're at least at the worst, you're a closet IU fan.
I monitor them.
Well, the football team's pretty good.
Yeah, they're exceptional right now. So it's I was there during the lean years when there was nobody in the stadium, and
Well, we're grateful for Ball State here because that was one of the 2 wins we had this year.
yes, yeah, we're always good for those Big Ten SEC visits early in the season.
So I'm curious. So you say you went to Ball State because it has architecture. It is the architecture school in Indiana. I think it's the only one, is it not?
It is, I believe, for the undergraduate. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that's really kind of drew you to Ball State, but you didn't go through with architecture. So what did you shunt into?
So when I realized my pathway from architecture was pretty much closed off because I didn't really understand what a portfolio was, and I had to take art classes, and I really wasn't into taking the essence of a fork and taking that and designing it into a building. So I found myself in when I matriculated at Ball State, I found my way into the last class of industrial arts educators.
Oh, yeah.
And while there, they transitioned from industrial arts into that time industrial technology. So I was always, I liked working my hands growing up. I like how things go together. So I found after I left Bloomington and spent 5 summers working for Weddle Brothers on bridge construction, I realized that I didn't want to be outside when snowballs started flying. So I found myself being a construction CTE teacher.
Yeah, so you use that term industrial arts, which I don't think people would, it's certainly students in high school or even some of the kids in college wouldn't even know what that was. So industrial arts to me, when I was a kid growing up, that was wood shop, metal shop. We did drafting. I had an architectural design class in industrial arts. What else would there have been? Might have been some others. Oh, there's a mechanic shop.
Yeah, plastics.
Yeah. So the old industrial arts that I grew up with
Yes, sir.
was really hands-on, right?
Very much.
You built things for class. That's how you got your grade. I don't think that exists anymore, does it?
No, it's pretty much gone the wayside. The Department of Education kind of frowns upon that now as those traditional classes, even though a lot of the tech ed classes have some essence from it. Those woodworking classes, you can find them embedded in some schools around the state, but they keep them in the back of the building so nobody really knows that they still exist.
That's sad. I'm a woodworker. That's sad.
I'm with you. I'm with you. That's, in Bloomington or at Hoosier Hills at that time, the pathway into the construction trades program is you had to take the woodworking classes. And I never got into the trades program because I didn't want to leave campus because of athletics. So that was my barrier from going into the building trades.
Right. So you went off to Ball State, got into what we then called industrial arts. You say
Right.
You say you were in the last class?
Yeah, while I was there, my sophomore year, they transitioned the naming of the pathway from industrial arts to industrial technology education. So they started to pivot away from the foundry, plastics. That's the first taste of CAD. I took the last pencil and paper drafting class at Ball State, so I learned a hard lesson about CAD is save and save often when there's a thunderstorm outside and you had a big computer in front of you. And back then, the CAD at that time, you had a wand and a large desk in front of you, and you had to insert line X equals, here's the integer, and then Y equals this integer, and that's how you plotted the early days of CAD back in the 80s.
I'm old enough to never have used CAD. I mean, I had drafting as an undergraduate at Purdue, but we were still drafting by hand.
Yeah.
And I still enjoy drafting by hand.
Oh, I'm a romantic. Give me the old drafting equipment, the T-square.
I'm the same way.
I'm ready to go. Yes.
I keep thinking as a woodworker, I need to build a new drafting table for myself in my office at home, right?
Indeed.
I'm just like that. I just want a T-square, some triangles, and leave me alone. I'm good. I don't need the computer.
I'm with you there.
Everybody else says, oh, you need to be using SketchUp or, name your favorite little computer program that does those things for you. And I'm thinking, just give me the pencil and the paper.
Yeah. You still see some of the drafting equipment in some of the high schools when I go and visit. Not like you used to, but some instructors still use it for some activities. So
I was fortunate enough. I think I had 3 drafting classes in high school. There was like the introductory, and then there was a more advanced, and then there was an architectural drafting course that I took where we actually got to design a house and put all the electrical and the plumbing and HVAC stuff in, and all that design. And that was fun. One of the things I remember drafting in high school was we had to learn to draft with ink and pen, right? And that was India ink. And so you had to be really careful. You'd have ink everywhere. And I don't know. Maybe I'm just old-fashioned.
No, you and I are in the same club there. I remember the mechanical drafting didn't really appeal to me, but like you, I found the architectural, all the different mechanicals that went into it, and the structural, that really got my attention. So
I learned at some point along the way that I wasn't going to be an architect, which is what I thought I really was. My wife will still tell you today, look, when I married him, he said he was going to be an architect.
Right. Yep.
And I never even got close to that. I realized I wasn't creative enough. I didn't have that art. The art part of me wasn't there. What I learned was I'm an engineer.
Right.
Right. I like things that, you take a problem and you just solve that problem, and it's creative creative things when it came to making a building look nice wasn't good. But if you want to talk about building, right, then maybe I'm okay with that.
Yeah, the design thing is one, but how it goes together, that's where I found my love of construction.
Yeah, so I assume that you taught, I'm just going to call it industrial arts, okay?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you taught industrial arts in the high school system?
So yeah, I started up north, a little middle school called Wanata, and US 421 and US 20, and then I met my wife, and she didn't really want to leave Hamilton County, so I was looking for a teaching job and wound up at Hamilton Heights there, in northern Hamilton County. My first 10 years of teaching, I taught a very traditional welding, wood shop, cabinet building. We had a plastics, we had an old school printing lab, taught a lot of photography, black and white photography with a dark room, color photography
Really?
with a dark room. And basically that's what I hung my hat on as far as, hours 1 through 7 every day for 1988 to about 2000 when things really changed and funding got real tight. First time I went around.
Oh, okay, so what did change? What happened? Because I remember this, because this happened where I went to, I was long out of high school then, but I had children that were in the same high school system that I went to at the time. And I just remember this changing, right? There were still teachers in industrial arts that I'd had who now were being, I guess I'll call it set free, because the high school decided, well, we're going down a different path. What happened?
So throughout the 90s, when I started at Hamilton Heights, we had 5 teachers, industrial arts teachers in the department.
Wow.
And then by the time we got to 2000, 2001, as 3 of them retired off and aged out, they weren't replaced. And then we went through the first tightening of the belt from the state budget. And we were looking around going, all right, our course offerings we have, we're going to be really challenged to sustain them. I really considered, I could probably leave education and go find a construction company and make a heck of a lot more money than I was making then. And I was at a crossroads. A young man that I had in class became my teaching colleague. He graduated from here, Purdue, and he said, well, there's this engineering thing going on coming out of New York called Project Lead the Way.
Right.
So I went. It was a day out of school. I had Diet Coke and a sub sandwich, and I went and heard her spiel and realized the value in it. And at that time, it went from a very lab-based curricular pathway to a very design, a lot of computer.
Right.
And we recognized that because of that, it was going to be able to be easier to fund rather than having a big, expensive, machine shop, welding equipment, so on, all the lab equipment and materials go with it. So we, like a lot of people, pivoted to an engineering pathway in the early 2000s. We started with the introductory course, did some professional development. I went to class first summer. Second spring, I get a notification going, hey, we're wanting to add civil engineering and architecture. Well, that caught my interest right off the bat because that was my pathway previous. And they said, oh, by the way, we need teachers to teach this to other teachers. We'll pay you a stipend. There'll be some travel. And I'm like, okay, sign me up. So, that was the early 2000s. So I started working and teaching civil engineering architecture at Hamilton Heights. A lot of schools in our area like to say that they were the first one to offer engineering, but Hamilton Heights was the first, I'm proud to say. So that started my professional journey as an educator down a pathway that I never knew that I would ever chase down. I found myself training other fellow colleagues, sometimes 25, 30 for 2 weeks at a time, 80 hours during the day, and then study tables at night from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock, helping stressed out teachers try to learn software, beam calculations, runoff calculations. So yeah.
Yeah, you were trying to transition all those teachers from They were sort of like you, right?
Yeah.
They'd come kind of from that same industrial arts
Yeah.
background to try and transition to something new.
Yeah, there was a whole group of us that, all right, what do we do now? A lot of them were close to retirement. A lot of them didn't have a choice. It's either retire or change. And a lot of them still were far enough away from the date of retirement, so they were forced to change. So that consumed me professionally from the early 2000s up until whenever I retired 3 years ago. And along that pathway, I got to contribute my passion, my interest, writing curriculum. We all contributed to the publication of a book to support the curriculum. So I got to do things I never thought possible, got to meet people that I never thought that I would meet and help me professionally grow and continue to learn. So
You didn't envision any of that when you graduated from high school?
not even in the least bit. And I'm still trying to figure out how I wound up where I am here today. So
It's really funny when I have found in my life when I talk to people, a lot of people kind of get, I don't know, 20, 30 years into, down the road from high school, and you say to them, well, you've had this long career and things have been wonderful, and you think, and a lot of people say to you, yeah, I'm not really sure what I want to be when I grow up. And I feel that same way.
Yes, yeah.
I'm not really sure what I want to do when I grow up.
Yeah, and I'm still, professionally, I'm still evolving and changing, and I'm almost 60. So yeah,
But that's what makes it interesting, right?
it is indeed.
If you did the exact same thing every day, I think you'd be bored.
Oh, 100%. My day is different every day. The biggest change from being an educator for 33 years is I'm not governed by a bell any longer. And I appreciate that. So,
A bell several times a day.
Indeed, seven periods of time. So
The bell's telling you what to do now.
I don't miss that as far as the day. So
Well, I can't say I blame you. As an engineering professor, I have to say that I appreciate that change that the high school system's made, and even at the junior high level, right? They made that pivot into the Project Lead the Way, which is what it was called at the time,
Right.
right? Into to try and develop that desire in kids, that interest maybe to do that. I can't help but wonder though, did we lose something when we got rid of metals class or wood shop or even the mechanics or welding? I mean, you're building a steel bridge, you kind of need somebody that can weld, and you better be good at it, right? Nobody wants to drive across a steel bridge that was welded together by somebody that barely passed welding class.
absolutely. Whenever traffic stops and I'm on a bridge, my mind starts racing somewhere. Yeah, I'm thinking sheer moment diagram. Are we good? Yeah. No. What happened? When we had our epiphany, and it was a strange 12 months of my career. We had gutted our traditional space, spent a lot of money going from a printing lab, a welding lab, and went to engineering spaces, and we had clean rooms. We went 3D printers, and along about that time, we still had a population of those kids that were taking traditional classes. We were sending them to a vocational school. We had an unfortunate situation where they weren't showing up, and the vocational and it's a long story. There's probably a whole other show here on that story, but the epiphany of the moment was we're not servicing the large population of our kids. And then we started looking at, unfortunately on an engineering student, there's this thing called Calculus 200 at a university level,
Right.
and it thins them out pretty quick. And so we started really looking at students that we had they really chased and launched into an engineering pathway, and we realized that we had a lot of kids signing up, but we weren't really meeting the needs of the demographics of our population. So at that time, we kept our engineering pathway, but rather than sending our kids to vocational school, we decided we're going to keep them in-house, and we're going to offer our courses here, and then we're going to start doing work-based learning and pre-apprenticeships. And once we did that, we sent our first student out. He actually went for my civil engineering architecture class. He went to work for a company there in Noblesville, and he was working with their BIM department. So he was building information modeling. So he had the VR and using Autodesk Revit. Once Luke received payment on a Friday morning, hit his checking account, and kids found out that he got paid for work-based learning because he was working there 4 hours, it changed everything. Even though it started on our engineering side of the house, we shortly then started getting kids connected to our skilled trades contractors in our community, and it really it ignited our enrollment, especially on the trade side. We went from 24 to 30 kids to in about a 3-year window. About 149 out of a population of 780 kids in our building. So
150 students, quite a few.
it is. It was is a significant jump, and that's when we realized that there's something going on here, and that we had really not met the needs of our population. And so we kept the engineering side, and they still have it today as I speak, and they still also had we started leaning and really bringing back the trade side.
Well, so I'm certainly not an expert in what the trades need, but I suppose if you were to ask someone, probably everyone's heard of Mike Rowe, right? Mike is probably the most famous person in the U.S.
He is.
to talk about how important those trades are, right?
Yep.
You and I can't survive unless we have tradespeople that do the work. And I've been to some conferences where I've heard people talk about this issue. And often it's scary. They talk about the fact that, look, for example, from a construction standpoint, we don't have enough people coming into the trades. We're not going to be able to build anything in this country anymore. I mean, when I say build, we're not going to build roads, we're not going to build housing, we're not going to build anything like that, because is the problem as bad, do you think, that I see that portrayed?
It is indeed. It is as bad.
It's an acute problem.
It is indeed. We realized that on the vertical side of construction, we weren't meeting the needs of our students. So we really leaned in, and I was looking around. Here I am trying to source funding to really lean back in and get the equipment, because the equipment that we had was from the 1970s. We had some from the 60s. And it was really poor equipment. And I didn't want to put kids in a lab situation and be using, unapproved OSHA equipment. So at that time, there was money starting to flow back in to add to career technical education. And we identified a grant that we at Hamilton Heights, along with the Indiana Construction Roundtable Foundation, co-wrote, and we received $100,000. I will tell you that when you start purchasing $100,000 of brand new cordless hand tools and tool belts and everything, that the kids get really excited because they really feel like, okay, this place where I'm going to school values what I'm interested in. So we had $100,000 worth of brand new construction tools and equipment that I would rival any school in the United States. I could definitely tell you in Indiana. So that purchase and that grant reward really excited our kids. And so once we did that, here comes my experience working on bridges during my Ball State days. We had become empty nesters. Our last one had left. And so my 3 o'clock in the evening to 10 o'clock was wide open for the first time in 25 years. I wasn't running somebody somewhere. And so I was starting to think about, all right, obviously we can do a residential construction, which is a very traditional pathway in most high schools and vocational schools. And I kept rolling around in my head, well, what about horizontal? What about roads and bridges? As a kid, when I was growing up, I'd love to see the big yellow iron. And I was always fascinated with what it can do with the earth and move it. And I'm a big crane guy. I'm a huge fan of cranes. The physics professor with cranes is phenomenal. And I will be very truthful. Sorry, Mom. Cranes helped me survive church on Sundays because I was sketching out all the different lattice crawler boom cranes and whatnot. But so I had bumped into some folks on the horizontal side. I had some relationships. We had the worst career fair ever that I was ever involved with one night. And I bumped into a former student of mine who was there, and he was looking for talent. And he was working for a large contractor here in the state. And he was there with his talent acquisition person, HR. And we're walking out. I said, this is awful. I said, this is unacceptable, what we just did. We got to do better. And from that conversation and from that night, we started talking about, okay, can we offer up another pathway in the construction cluster that focuses on roads, bridges, and utilities below grade? And so we started having just people coming together, and it was a very grassroots moment. Next thing you know, I'm hosting industry professionals driving across the state at Hamilton Heights High School. I've got folks coming in from NDOT. I've got somebody coming in from the department. I'm like, something's going on here. And what it was this. For the first time in construction education, horizontal construction was being spoken about, was being planned. How does it look like? What does it look like? And so we had this tremendous amount of momentum, and then COVID hit.
Oh, yeah.
COVID just sucked the wind out of it. I'm like, well, this is, whatever momentum we had is over.
Well, that stinks, doesn't it?
It does stink. And so I know the last day before our principal cut us all loose, going, okay, make sure you got X amount of minutes of instruction. That first week during COVID, and I'm at one part of my table, my wife is teaching second grade from hers, and I'm listening to the students talking about all these other classes that are just piling on the homework. I finally said, you know what? I'm not going to inundate you with any more work. I'll see you when this thing is over. And that's whenever I just took myself into writing and hammering out a pathway for the civil construction. During that time, we were also writing a grant for innovative pathways. They had some money from the DOE and the CT department, CT pathways, and I had identified, okay, what if we get enough seed money for a civil construction pathway? And we put our nose to the grindstone, sharpened our pencils, and started writing everything that the department had required. We applied for the grant, received the grant money in the middle of COVID, and from there we had 15 students in August of, what was that, 2020? When we were
That was COVID. That was the COVID year.
Yeah, so here we go. We're back in person, and we're trying to start a brand new class from scratch. And that's how it all got started. And then we received the grant that summer, and we started purchasing tools that related to civil construction. So,
well, that's kind of like it. Now you're kind of, I mean, I'm a roads guy, right? I teach pavement design every fall. That's what I'm teaching right now.
Love it.
Yeah, but I mean, I've been around that construction. I worked professionally for about 10 years before I came to the university and was around all the road construction and things. And it's an industry that I think is very concerned that they are not going to have enough people coming in. Because, if you look at, my understanding is if you look at the construction industry, the workforce is aging out, right? That over the next 5 to 10 years that they're going to lose most of their workforce. That's got to be replaced.
Yep.
So you sound like somebody that's trying to do something about that.
I'm a big proponent of doing. I get very weary with people that have a very high level. We're going to have a website. Here's our PDF one pager. We'll send this out. This will help, attract. I'm like, no, we've got to get something developed to get kids excited about building infrastructure. And that fall, we took off. And I'm like, wow, we got 15 kids signed up. We got approved by the DOE as an official career pathway. We were very cautious about naming it. If you talk to very traditional construction educators, they call it heavy highway. And I knew working my days when I was working for Weddle Brothers, my mom would look out the window and say, when we pull up a stoplight, and point to somebody that had a ripped up, PPE and had a smoke hanging out of their, mouth, and that's the reason you're going from college. So I thought, okay, we've got an image problem here.
Right.
So that's the reason we pivoted from heavy highway to civil construction, which would be more palatable to whomever the adult is at the house is helping us sign up for classes. So we were purposeful on the naming. We get it started, and I'm watching the kids engage. I'm listening to them. This is a different kid. These are a totally different kid than I had over here building and framing a house. This kids like to be outside. They like the big yellow iron. They like, a grader, a dozer, a crane. And I recognize that, all right, I got to come up with something that keeps them engaged. So here we are. I reached out to a couple colleagues the teachers that I'd been connected with around the state, going, hey, something's going on in my classroom, and it's a different kid. You might want to think about offering this. And I was doing this because I knew that they had those kids too. And so I found this group up in Minnesota that on a Saturday for $250, you can go, get on an excavator, you can get on a dozer, you can dig a ditch, you can drive over the top of a car. And I thought, so they had a sandbox in the name. And I thought, I want to do that at Hamilton Heights. And the idea was rolling around in my head. I pitched it to my wife, my voice of reason. I said, here's what I want to do. So there's the leverage of and the calculated thought of a second grade teacher. She's going to make sure it's vetted.
She's going to make sure you don't do something really idiotic.
Right, because I'm not sure what she saw in me. So one evening, we're coming out of COVID, and I said, hey, I'm thinking about a sandbox at Hamilton Heights, skid steers, and maybe a mini excavator. And she's, I could see the doubt. She's like, are you sure you can put a 17-year-old and a piece of heavy equipment?
Who's going to assume that liability?
Here we go. So now you get the next 6 months of my life. And I said, well, wait. I said, we have athletics. And on a Friday night, we have kids out there risking chronic injury of a knee for the next, the rest of their life. We call them a football hero. We have driver's ed. They're already running up and down the interstate at 70 miles an hour. Why can't we do this? So I won my first argument. I went with my wife. I won that one with that comment. And I went to Dr. Airwood, the superintendent at Hamilton Heights, and I said, hey, I've got this idea. I really want to get kids engaged. And I said, so if I'm able to put them on a skid steer in the fall and a mini excavator in the spring, I could hit them with anything else in the classroom, because for 3 days on each semester, they're going to run the big yellow iron. And once that happened, and those kids, we were on mini excavators and skid steers in the May of 21, it changed everything, because now I have a whole building of other construction students looking out the window that could see going,
they're stuck in class.
I'm stuck in here reading Henry David Thoreau in English class. This is boring me to death. I want to be out there. And it changed everything. And we had when we come back in the fall of 21, we've got 35 kids signed up for civil construction. We've done a huge increase in enrollment. And now I've got a problem because there's only one of me teaching construction on a vertical and the horizontal side now. We're now needing another body. And we are also sending kids out, and work-based learning still is expanding, surveying, construction inspection. We had kids that went to work for a local hydro excavator and directional boring. And we were sending kids where we never thought we would because of what had happened in 2017. So now we have this pre-apprenticeship work-based learning thing going, and we also have a civil construction pathway. And I went to my principal one, hey, I said, my phone is ringing off the hook. My email, they want the kids. And I said, we were onto something here. And that's,
Did they need to clone you? You needed another you?
no, they don't want to do that, I assure you. That would be dangerous. And I was just in a position where we had the kids. We had the kids that were interested.
Right.
And then we also had these local contractors that wanted to hire them. And so we were just, I became a business agent. The union, the union vocabulary, and I was just connecting them, and the contractors would say, "Tell me about this kid," and I was truthful. I would tell the contractors, "This young person on time every day, ready to go," or they're having a hard time getting here until third period. They're probably going to be late. So, and I told the kids that. I said, now we've got accountability, because if you go somewhere and I don't tell them who you are, and you come back and you've done something that hurts you, you're also hurting the next person in line. So there we go.
Yeah, I don't think, one of the things I think as I've gotten older is that younger people sometimes don't understand that half the battle's showing up on time and doing what you're told.
Right.
And that can sometimes be it's an interesting story. You've come a long way over, 20 years?
Oh, yeah.
Right, from the time you started teaching to what it turned into, and then what you've got going now, just really apparently, been within the last 5-6 years, right?
Right. So we're rolling along. Our enrollment is going through the roof. We're looking at, other, trying to hire other faculty possibly. Now I have other industries stepping in going, hey, we want to do a concrete day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, let's figure this out. So next thing I got the American Concrete Pumping Association coming into my classroom, driving from up north, and I've got concrete producers going, hey, we'll give you 18 yards of concrete. And so we were having, a concrete day.
By the way, I have a driveway if you're looking.
Yeah,
You've probably never heard that before, have you?
I get that a little bit. I get that. Hey, if you need someplace to form up some slab, we're good.
Yeah.
And in that spring of 22, we're really looking at, more faculty. How am I going to do this? How am I managing this? We need somebody to manage the work-based learning. So in that course of those early days before COVID, there was folks from INDOT, some of our industry folks, and then we had a young lady that I was connected with. She was where I'm at now at ICI, and she decided she's going to move on, and get married and go into her role in HR for her husband's company, which is the namesake on the truck, on the in the truck of the door,
Right.
or the door of the truck, excuse me. And then Richard Hedgecock at Indiana Constructors reached out and goes, hey, can you replicate what you're doing at Hamilton Heights across the state? And all of a sudden, I'm pretty confident in what I was doing. Now I'm a nervous wreck. And so
This is a big undertaking.
you were going to leave something that you had done for 33 years. And you'd really finally started figuring out how to do it the last 5. We're getting it figured out after, a lot of pivots there, and had some really great conversations with Richard, and reached that magic rule of 85 so you can retire from
Right.
teaching and get a pension on the side. And my lovely bride said, oh, you're getting a pension and a new salary that's more than being a teacher? He's done. He's coming to ICI.
It didn't take much to make that decision.
It didn't take much. It was easy. And I didn't realize then how much I was ready for a change.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, now I look back, I had built it as much as I possibly could, and because I like to build things. And we realized that we were building programs and people more so than buildings and roads, that we were creating something to attract the kids. So in May of 2022, I took the leap of faith and started where I'm at Indiana Constructors, and started the lead for Working Roads.
So you are trying to replicate this across the state.
We are indeed.
How's that going?
Well, I am very proud to say that at present we have students from 30 high schools across the state that are traveling or already located at 18 high schools or training centers, vocational schools, where they're receiving civil construction pathway curricular content and experiences.
Is that mostly around central Indiana?
We are, our hotbed is Indianapolis, Fort Wayne. We are in the South Bend over to Northwest Indiana, and then we have a couple schools in the Evansville area. That's where we're predominantly located with our 30 training centers. That includes, we have Civil 1 students and Civil 2. Collectively, that's about 800 students statewide that are in the civil construction pathway.
So it works like, I'm trying to think of what it was called back in the day. We used to have students that went to work half a day. They'd like work in the morning and then come to school in the afternoon. There was a word for those students, and I can't remember what they were called.
Vocational ed.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
That's the old slang term that you don't hear much anymore.
But this is like that.
Similar. We have some high schools that are keeping kids on campus, and they are doing the pathway at their facilities. We also have 3 career and technical education centers where they have the instructor, and they have schools from 5 schools come in, or 3, and they're bussed in and they take the content.
So are you partnered with the trades unions at all?
So ICI, we fly the flag for the Association of General Contractors of
Right.
Indiana. We're the horizontal side of it. So yes, we partner with LIUNA, the carpenters, operators, rod busters, ironworkers, teamsters of across the state.
So when a student goes through one of these programs, say for example they're really interested in being an operator, so they go through one of these programs in high school, are they set up then to get into the union, to move right into the union apprentice program, or how does that work?
So on the laborers, yes. On the carpenters, yes. They apply for the or the apprenticeship programs, and venture into becoming a journeyman. The pathway becoming an operator is a little bit longer. They have a backlog of applicants to get into the operators union. We've had a couple kids matriculate into the ironworkers. So there is a pathway, and one of the things that we're trying to do, and it's a hard lift, is get students credentials in high school for the laborers.
Yeah.
Maybe they can get blueprint reading, construction math. They can knock out their OSHA, whatever that they can. Okay, if they want to go to Bedford or Logansport or the Chesterton, they graduated on from high school, and they're in their apprenticeship program, taking classes with already 5 or 6 underneath their belt. That's what we're working on now behind the scenes.
That just makes so much sense to me.
It does.
I mean, I have a nephew who's a senior in high school now, and I think when he graduates, he's going to graduate with his high school degree and an associate's degree, right? Because he's got this dual credit thing going on.
Yeah.
If you can do that with a college or university, why can't you do that with the union so that you already have some of your credentials ready to go? And
yeah, there's the logic of it, and finding the trainers and getting the articulation between the high schools and what is being taught in the high school to articulate as a credit towards the operators, or excuse me, the union, or LIUNA or the carpenters. It takes some finesse to figure that out. We have to get our trainers, our teachers, some professional development so they can offer the content. So
Right.
That's a big barrier that we're up against right now, is just finding the instructors.
seems like it's definitely a worthwhile undertaking that you've got going on, but it also seems like a heavy lift to me. It doesn't seem like you have thought, you know what, I'm going to retire and take on this easy job so I can just cruise through the rest of my life. Instead, it's almost like you've jumped out of the frying pan into the fire.
I have a little bit. I will be very honest. This isn't just me. There are a lot of people that are doing the heavy lifting around different contractors, different trades, suppliers. We also, we have other associations, Asphalt Paving Association and the Ready Mix Concrete, American Concrete Institute. I can go on. The surveyors, they're all stepping in and working to affiliate and support together because one person can't do this alone. So there's a lot of great people behind the scenes doing a lot of heavy lifting and doing the important work.
So what's your day look like when you get up in the morning?
I have a lot of meetings. I have a lot of folks that want to step in and what can I do to become involved. I do a lot of directing the bow of the ship in the right direction, making sure that we are continuing to grow and offer maybe credentials, maybe opportunities
Right.
for students, professional development for instructors. Whenever I'm not doing that, I run a leadership academy for our contractor members. And then I also have my curriculum writing hat that myself and another colleague are busy. Right now we're in the middle of writing content for plant operations. So you have anything on asphalt, let me know. And we're also doing a paving unit that we're working on right now. So whenever I don't have all the other things going on, I can throw on my curriculum writing hat that we're producing.
Well, good luck. You probably don't know that. So I'm in the middle of writing a book on asphalt materials and pavements because I got asked by a company if I would write a book, a textbook.
Sure.
And I thought at the time, well, this is going to be pretty easy. I've taught this class for 25 years, 25 years, and it is all based off of what I've taught over the 25 years, but it's not as easy as. So you're talking about all the writing, and it's not as easy as you thought it was going to be.
It is not. So if you want to be a contributing author to our content, I'd love to have you submit some work.
I do have a background in asphalt. That is what I have done for all these years.
We're new friends now. I need you more than you know.
Okay. Well, so first of all, I really like the passion you have for getting young students on a career or to give them some guidance, to help them gain skills in life. Mm-hmm. So you may help students, they gain some skills at a very young age. And I think, especially when you begin to put them on heavy equipment and they learn to do that, I think it builds confidence in them as well. And I think that's important for them because now all of a sudden maybe you started down this path and then you realize, well, I don't want to be a carpenter all my life. But I think having accomplished something like what you're helping students do, I think gives them the confidence to say, you know what, I can do pretty much whatever I've set my mind to do. Just because I'm started out to be an operator or a carpenter or a laborer or whatever doesn't mean I'm locked into that the rest of my life.
100%.
Right. I mean, there are other things that you can be done there. I mean, I was talking to a guy who, went to work out of high school for the State Department of Transportation, right? Started basically on the maintenance crew, and he ended up, by the time he retired, he was kind of the State Department of Transportation's bridge inspector.
Right.
He was the guy. Right, that in his mind he had as much knowledge in there about bridges as the engineers who were designing them.
Right.
So it doesn't just because you started down, it doesn't lock you into anything.
Oh no, not at all, not at all. There's what we're doing. I've told you about. There's a lot of people doing a lot of heavy lifting. There's a very smart lady that I've fortunately become to know. Her little phrase is, "You can't be what you can't see." And all we're doing is we're opening up the world of civil construction to 16, 17, 18-year-olds so they can look around and say, all right, maybe inspection. Oh, I like the carpentry. They want to do estimating. We've got kids that want no part of being outside when it's hot and cold, but put them in front of an Excel spreadsheet estimating how much asphalt to put down I-65. They're all over it.
Yeah, I've done estimating. Don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
Some
Some
of us don't like it.
And I'm with you. I don't want to be in that. I'd rather be away from that. So
There's just a lot. It's a lot of moving parts in what you're doing. A lot of things going on. You have a lot of partners. I mean, from what you say, there's so many partners that you're always, you've got to get everybody kind of on the same page and moving in the same. You ever feel like you're trying to herd cats?
There are moments you get frustrated. It's it's human nature. But because I feel like we have a clear identified goal and where we're going, those folks that are stepping in and helping, they're trying to pull everybody in the same direction. Ultimately, if if you're a contractor and I'm a contractor, you hire a student right out of high school, I need to be as excited for you as if I'll get the next one and you'll be reciprocated. And that so far has really been the nice thing to see. If we get kids hired into our industry, the industry wins. And one of the things that our contractor members have really done a good job of keeping at the door is the competitiveness to get all the kids. We have a leader in our industry says, it's the old JFK saying, rising water lifts all boats.
Mm-hmm.
So if we get one, we get them all. That's one of us, all of us get them. So,
Well, that's a good way to go. I keep going back to this so I'm a big believer that when it comes to education, that you shouldn't really lose anything. So for example, I have a colleague that I've known for roughly 30 years who has his own company, his own consulting company in asphalt, and he works all over the world, right? He's kind of the guy that they call from all over the world when they have a problem. And, when he's English, so he started in England, and he lives in the U.S. now, but he started basically out the door from high school on a paving crew, paving asphalt. And I think that's what he thought he was going to do the rest of his life. He didn't want to go to college. He didn't want to do those things. He wanted to work. And
right.
He worked on a paving crew, and eventually he did go to college, and eventually ended up with a PhD, and now he's the guy that, gets calls from all over the world to help them out when they have an asphalt problem. But anyone I've ever known who's worked with their hands and done something in the field before they became a college graduate or something like that seemed to have, it's almost like in the military, the whole officer enlisted person debate.
Mm-hmm.
I've known people in the military who'll say the best officers are people who were enlisted who became officers because they've lived this life and know what it's like. And I think there's some truth to that too when it comes to the construction things. Having done it with your hands makes a big difference when you start to then become the person on the other end that's doing the design or trying to implement a design or something like that.
I agree 100% with all that. It goes back to in the construction industry, we have that last planner person. Are they at the table when you're putting together a schedule, and do they have input into that schedule, into the methodology, how that's going to happen on the job site? So if you're able to have that experience, being the last person, or if it's right out of high school and you're the first person, depending on where you start from, you can find yourself into that CEO chair, or
Right. Exactly.
because that experience is so valuable. And I look where I'm at, because I spent 5 summers as a laborer. I understand that the work that we're asking these kids to launch into, I've done it. I've been out there in the elements, and I understand that scope of work that you're trying to appeal to a 2026 graduate of, to get into our civil industry. So you have to have that understanding. I think it makes you better with what you're trying to deliver to get that student to launch in.
I think that's absolutely true. By the way, just because it's civil construction and people think of it maybe as being dirty or, there's a lot of technology in it, right? I mean, you look at, like, if you're going to grade something, there's GPS controlling all of that stuff now. It's just the way it is. You can go on job sites now where everything's being controlled by, the GPS, and all the equipment kind of knows what's going on. There's a lot of technology it's coming through in the construction.
The technology, since we've started 5 years ago, in drones, in the GPS and stationing, in grade control,
really changed.
It's really changed. If you watch this directional boring that you see going alongside the roads, and you see that little box, that's guiding a drill, 2 or 3 feet below grade, that's augering out the soil, and you're thinking, wow, that technology, and it's on GPS, and it's picking up, everything is below grade.
Yes, our technology allows us to do construction much more efficiently, much more effectively, we used to be able to do it, right?
Oh.
Like you were saying, with GPS and all the different stuff that we have, it just kind of, you can hit a pin sometimes if you need to.
Right.
I've always been amazed at just how good somebody that's operating a dozer can be, right? If they
Right.
need to take off a quarter of an inch, they can do that. They just need to know how much you want them to move.
Yes, absolutely.
It's amazing.
And the technology, in my opinion, is attracting that tech-savvy kid who maybe doesn't want to be, out in the elements. Maybe they want to run a drone and measure, stockpiles of aggregate
Right.
for a concrete or asphalt plant. I mean, if you heard, and this, the calculations that people had to do in order to keep track of the inventory of their
Right.
different aggregates, compared to, we'll fly it out over the pile at 5 o'clock and then we'll order it across from the mine. It's insane how much it's eliminated
really
and
changed.
improved the processes.
So I'm curious. We've had this nice discussion. I like to ask people this question when I talk to them. So Eric, given all the things that you've done up to this point in your life, in your career, and where you are today, if there was something that you could go back and tell 18-year-old Eric, what would it be?
It's very simple. It is when I was teaching, and I've got a couple students that are on campus still floating around here, so I still have my legacy. Take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of you. Don't ever discredit it, but consider it before you say no, because you never know who's going to be there on the other side of that opportunity that can help get you to where you want to go.
I love that. And I think that's what most people usually tell me, right?
Right.
Be prepared to take the opportunities that come in your life. You don't know what they are, you don't know when they'll come, and you don't know where they'll take you. And I agree with you. If I could go back and tell myself something, I think it would be that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Be prepared.
Be prepared.